Welcome back to the AP Automation Digital Summit. In this session, Experience Efficiency Unleashed, we're going to start out with an overview of OpenEnvoy and then have a detailed discussion with customer Eric Anderson and Chief Customer Officer of OpenEnvoy, Craig Yee. If you think about the history of AP, 25 years or more ago, it was actually pretty straightforward to reconcile an invoice. Get all the supporting documents, put them on a table, and do that reconciliation manually. Over the last 25 years, though, there have been a lot of new technologies that promise to make that process more efficient. The problem with a lot of them is that there was too much overhead involved or too much change required for suppliers, which may lead to pushback. With applied AI today, with OpenEnvoy, you're able to go back to the original process. Take that invoice that you get from the supplier, though receive it fully digitally with no touch required, and reconcile to all your source documents wherever they come from in your company. You can instantly spot overbilling, duplication, and fraud. And the result is that you get that finance efficiency and also reduction of non-headcount spend. OpenEnvoy unifies payables, contracts, and receivables with applied AI. On the AP side, we capture 100% of supplier invoices and code any non-PO invoices. We look for fraud and duplicates at the line item level across all your invoices using AI. We fully reconcile using a 2, 3, or N-way match and ensure compliance. The fully secure platform is easy to integrate across your company, and it can pick up contracts that are needed to reconcile invoices. It also makes it extremely easy to engage your suppliers. In fact, your suppliers may not even know that you're using OpenEnvoy. Provides complete insight into spend, suppliers, and dispute performance, and the approach scales to AR as well. The results are pretty amazing. More than 400 million saved per customer so far, and the time to value can be as little as 60 days. The approach is very different than others that you might have seen that require OCR templates or perhaps an AI approach that requires the finance team to train the AI or to manage exceptions. None of that is needed with OpenEnvoy. OpenEnvoy extracts 100% of supplier invoices with 0 templates and 0 manual work for customers. In addition to those invoice documents, OpenEnvoy captures anything from anywhere that is needed to validate your invoices. We code the invoices at the line item level and fully reconcile them. So these documents might be orders, proof of delivery, contracts, rate cards. All of this is captured for a full reconciliation without the need to invest in CLM systems or supplier catalogs. These things are overhead for AP, though they may be valuable for other parts of your business. We're going to hear in a moment from Raney's, who is able to digitize 100% of their supplier invoicing within 2 months. And they found that actually about 46% of their invoices had some variances that needed to be sent to approvers within the business to decide, are those invoices going to be short paid? Are we going to resolve with the supplier, or are we going to fully dispute? Those people were made so much more efficient by shifting their focus from resolving capture issues and exceptions to providing valuable accounting and business support. They were able to get 200% more efficient on their AP team. And with that, I'll introduce Craig and Eric.
Eric, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate you being here. Maybe you want to tell the audience a little bit about you, yourself, your journey, and a little bit about Raney's.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me, Craig. name is Eric Anderson. I helped found Raney's, and we started this company about the 2009, 2010 mark, really is when things started to pick up a little bit and we are putting pieces together. But we were really a small operation at the end of 2010 when we really ramped up. There was just three of us working from a small house, trying to find a way to sell semi-truck parts on the online. We started off with just moving parts across eBay, and then we found ways to build, design websites. We learned what we were doing when it came to that. And then we learned a lot about how to sell to truck drivers and what they needed, what could benefit them, how to market it. And then over time, we had to learn how to do warehousing, how to do shipping. And then, of course, with that comes accounting, which none of us had any experience with. So the three of us were kind of young and starting a business from nothing. None of us had any business experience. So we had to learn along the way. And one of those things we learned about was a lot of counting when it comes to AR and AP and how much work goes into it. So now we're at a place where over the last 13 years, we've grown into a much bigger operation, and we've been involved now and acquired by private equity. And we've kind of rolled into the transition of doing acquisitions, rolling more brands underneath the Raney's brand as well, being able to supply more products for our customers. With that, of course, AP has grown, but so is our staffing, so is our culture. And we're now in a larger headquarters building here in Ocala. And we have a large warehouse and a large staff to help support all of our products and all of our customers. So it's been a great journey this whole time.
Appreciate that, Eric. And I've been to the operations. It's quite an impressive place, including the retail section. You guys should come out and visit it if you're ever in Ocala. Let's start some Q&A for the audience. So you've been with us quite some time, and you've been on this journey now, and we've been partners for a while. It'd be interesting for the audience to understand, how have your processes evolved with the introduction of applied AI?
Well, we approached this whole journey with OE because we had one goal in mind, right? You talked about the pain points that come with AP, and it's really just a lot of data entry. You're taking invoices, you got to audit the invoice, you've got to check over and then check your ERP systems, make sure everything's matching with your POs, right? What was on your purchase contract in the first place. And there's just a lot of manual data entry. With manual data entry, then that also comes with some human error, a lot of frustrations from the AP team themselves dealing with so much at the same time. They were becoming overwhelmed as we continued to grow. So now our processes have completely evolved. Obviously, we're no longer just looking through emails for invoices and tracking information, but we have all of that being filtered through OE. And with its AI, it's able to go through, learn our invoicing system. It's being able to audit, match against our purchase order, match against our rate cards. So it's just taking a lot of all of that process we had to begin with. We're just bypassing all of it, and OpenEnvoy does those processes for us, right? Anything that should be automated does get automated. If it matches and no one needs to look at this before we're allowed to pay it, well, then that's what we do. No one needs to look at it. No human intervention. We just pass it right along through the system. So processes have really evolved. It's just been, we've gotten better with our technology now, basically. We've caught up to the times is what I would like to say. Hopefully we're a little bit ahead.
Right. Yeah, I can see that from the operations, things seem to be moving super smoothly. Great. Want to move on a little bit about the impact that it has to the organization, but really more from a business perspective. What has been the impact really to the business and the processes there?
Well, starting with just the AP department themselves, the personnel there, we've been able to, you mentioned earlier, really reallocate the resources that we had in there, the manpower. So we did have a larger 5-6 man team just to handle our AP with all that manual entry. And now we've slimmed that down to 3, really 2.5 persons taking care of our AP now. And what they've been able to do really is just focus on the OE interface itself. So they're only seeing what they need to see, only touching what they need to touch, which has been excellent. So because of that, business-wise, we've become much more efficient, I would say, a lot more efficient within that department. For our employees themselves, they have a better quality of life now when it comes to their work. it's not as frustrating. We've been able to eliminate some of that for them, right? They're not just reading invoices line by line and manually entering into a system, which I don't know anyone that really enjoys just entering data into the system computer over and over, day in and day out. So, that's been a lot nicer for them. And then business wise and supplier wise, I mean, not only are we more happy, but our suppliers have been happier too because we're more accurate when it comes to the entering of the data. There's less back and forth with the vendors about discrepancies, really what we perceived as a discrepancy versus really what is a discrepancy, as well as because now we're faster with OE. We're able to create these item fulfillments and bills quicker in our system. Now we've always been able to meet our terms. Not that we had a problem with that before, but we can do it much more easier now, meet the terms and make sure that the payments are going out on time. And
Right.
when a supplier gets a payment and it's on time and it's accurate, well, they're usually pretty happy about that. So I'd say our vendor relations have even improved because of OE. And with better improvement in the relations with our suppliers, we've been able to actually leverage that. This is just us personally. We leveraged that and turned it into better terms with our suppliers as well, because we're paying them more accurately and quicker. Well, can we get better terms in these? Maybe we get some discounts for early payments and so forth. So we've used it to our advantage as well in our company.
Great. We just recently completed an executive business review, and we talked about some of the improvements over the course of time, but also looking forward a little bit. Maybe you can describe for the listeners, the audience today, a little bit about the path forward, how you see it evolving in the next coming months and quarters.
Yeah, well, we've seen improvement, like our review showed. We still have lots of room for improvement when it comes to the full automation of our invoices. We've got just some internal processes, some rate card errors, some things on our side that can really get us to a much higher point of fully automated, less human intervention. So we've got some goals set already from jumping from, let's say, the 55% automation up to 75-80% automation, really just becoming even more efficient. So all of those improvements we talked about earlier, basically we just want to take them to another level. And then because we're able to scorecard using OE to see the vendor accuracy and their performance, now we're planning in these next few months then hopefully to take that to the suppliers and use it for negotiating, use it to help them improve their system so they can get maybe more on pace with us in technology, just to improve the overall quality. I mean, it'll help them, but it'll improve our quality of life too when it comes to how we're receiving invoices and how we're going to use those and pay those too. So I say those are our immediate goals that we're probably going to tackle just within the next couple of months to look for percentage improvements there.
Great. And of course, people worry today when the introduction of such advanced technologies like AI, it can be a little scary for folks. Maybe you can describe for people what's been the impact to the organization itself, the finance
I would
team.
say that. Yes. I would say that when we first went this direction of automated AP, because we did have 5-6 staff in there really handling a lot of this in statements, we knew that it was going to be a little bit of a scary thing for them too. Like, everyone's worried about losing their jobs, but that was never our goal, and mine anyway, with the culture we have at Raney's. When we find talent and good workers and good people, we want to hold on to them at all costs. So really all OE did is made their time and efficiency at work and improved that. So we were able to use them in different positions. So we've actually been able to find people and been able to identify talent. In our AP office that was just doing data manual entry, they were really being misused because they're smarter and they're better than that. And so we've rolled them into newer positions. Sometimes we've had to create some positions, but really it's been a benefit for them because now they're on a different path at the company. It's not like an entry level position. They've now been able to, we've seen multiple people be able to move into like positions of lead when it comes to our accounts payable or our accounts receivable, move them into like a slightly different department with a new job title and a new purpose. And we've gotten positive feedback. Everyone's excited about that. They like that type of change when it's in their best interest and future. So we just made sure that we explained that to them. And that was the goal. Their future was important as much as our future was important. And we want them to meet at a good end. So overall, it's been a positive thing. They've been very happy about it.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we noticed, that thank you for the tour, by the way. When we walked through, certainly the kind of like the employee satisfaction and the kind of culture that we experienced was a super positive. We appreciate you giving us that opportunity to kind of tour your facilities. Wanted to move on. We touched on this a little bit in terms of talking to suppliers and negotiating with them and bringing them more specifics, but can you talk a little bit more about how improved visibility has helped you from a control perspective and to help you control, manage, and other aspects of kind of managing your business?
Yes, we're able to, I would say just because of the better insights into the invoices now, like we always been able to tell how many invoices we had, but now we can very easily with OE's dashboards see the performance of those vendors, not only how many invoices each one of them are sending us, but how accurate those invoices were, right? What type of information was missing from them. Um, and we've been able to better target, like, well, this supplier is having this type of issue where we tend to be
Mhm.
missing this information, or this information is just misrepresented. They're not identifying it well for us on the invoices. And because we have that type of insight, we can drill down and really focus on those problems. Those, like,
Right.
sometimes those small problems can turn into, 1,000 different discrepancies over a couple months span from that one supplier. So
Hmm.
we've been able to, and as we onboard, we get more acquisitions and we continue to scale the company. Those invoices are going up, which means those little issues with suppliers that can turn into 1,000 different invoice problems, because we have an
Right.
insight to see it as it's happening, then we focus our manpower on fixing that one issue. And that's what we want to do a better job of in the next coming months too. We've got a new staff in place that's really going to be responsible for making sure that we're taking advantage of OE's technologies and its reporting and
Hmm.
dashboard. And we want to use it to our advantage to improve the efficiencies in which we're using those vendors, those suppliers, those parts as well. So I say we've been able to scale. We're not worried about onboarding more suppliers or parts or taking on more invoices, because OE is
Right.
able to do the work of, you know, 50 people in there if we keep, I mean, even more so, like as we continue to scale. So I say we've been able to get past problems faster and issues that a new vendor would have brought on, to identify it
Hmm.
and fix it immediately. And then we're not worried about onboarding 5 vendors, 10 vendors at a time, because we have OE's
Right.
assistance in identifying those. So I'd say that's how it's helped us scale the best.
Okay. Just one question. You mentioned the acquisitions that you guys are undertaking. I know that's part of the company's strategy. Can you talk a little bit more about kind of your focus on that and how the automation within AP, which is a part of the integration effort, has kind of served or you anticipate will serve to make integration of acquisitions easier?
Sure. Um, yeah, because normally when you think about acquisitions, and getting into different fields and different areas of products, maybe outside of this current industry, looking to other industries as well, well, those suppliers, those vendors, those partners that they're working with, they can be a completely different approach than what we've been dealing with the last 13 years when you get into a new industry.
Mhm.
So they've got different standards maybe than we're used to having. So it can be kind of a scary thing, not knowing what we had to meet and how many changes we'd have to make in our system and our ERP to like match what we needed to audit or look at, or the custom fields to think about. But really with OE, I'm not worried about that, because of how smart this AI system is at reading how fast it learns the invoice, what it needs to identify on the invoice. And then we can see by opening up one of our jobs exactly what the invoice looked like. It outlines exactly what field it read that from, and we can quickly make a change. All we got to do is contact you, say, hey, this is one thing that we need to make an adjustment on. It makes the adjustment, and going forward, the next 100 invoices are all correct again. So,
Right.
when it comes to acquisitions, I'm not worried about what industry we go into and who we onboard and what type of invoice they have, because OE can adapt to all of it
Mhm.
faster than we could as people staring at an invoice. That's for sure.
Right. So one last question on this section here. I mean, we're talking a little bit about scale. We talked a little bit about how OE and automation can help support integration. Tell us a little bit about, when it comes to scale, about your experience with technology platform like OE. You touched on it a little bit about growing over time and kind of being more in advanced learning. Do you have a perspective of that you could share?
A perspective when it comes to what I think
The
about our
ability
scale
to
or
kind
how we
of
can get.
yeah, to improve over time and how, there's constant its ability to move with the business, right? Because just like you'd have to train a person, you still need to train the AI, but it's a much more kind of reliable kind of process, particularly as things scale up.
Yes. Whereas with a person, we'd have to maybe change or create a whole new SOP for that supplier because of the way that they perform, the way their invoices look, the special rules that we might have for them. OE and this AI, feed it 5 invoices, feed it 10 invoices. It just gets smarter and smarter over time, but it's a very quick learning curve. So, I mean, if we were scaling, say we're doing 5,000 invoices now, we onboard we have an acquisition that brings on with it 6,000 more invoices for that month. I have no concern at all because within the first 10 or 15 invoices, we're going to pick out probably every inaccuracy or thing that it needed to learn when it came to reading that invoice and what it needs to match that to on our purchase orders. It's going to be so
Mhm.
quick that the next 3,000 invoices we're going to be where most of them are going to hit the automation stage. Say we send through 50% of those automated. That's 2,000 invoices that none of our AP clerks had to touch or see. We would have never been able to accomplish that without OE. Like taking on an acquisition that is doing transactions at the thousands mark per month. Like you're talking about having to onboard and train 2 more personnel, and that takes a long time to do, and it's a big investment to do. And I have no concerns about
Right.
that right now, which is a huge advantage.
Great. Let me just move on. There's kind of a wrap-up session that we've been had some questions submitted to us. I think there's a little bit of a look back. I think you guys are beyond the kind of new stage. You're active customers. You've been with us a while, but looking back a little bit, there was a ramp period and an implementation. And one of the questions we had was, can you talk about how we just shared with the audience 100%? How did it, how did you guys get there? Can you describe the process for the audience?
Yeah, well, for our personal experience, what we did is we knew we were going to be partnering with OE. We knew what our goal was for go live. So we just started feeding all invoices for all of our suppliers to OE, regardless if we were live with them or not. And it was going to be, actually publishing invoices. But we gave the system time, more time than it really needed. But we gave the system time to look at hundreds, if not thousands of invoices for us to kind of get an idea of how quickly it was going to learn the system, where there was going to be problem areas, and then we just made the adjustments quickly. And then after that, I mean, we scaled from, just doing a couple of our high-end suppliers that were maybe sending hundreds of invoices to we scaled up fast to 100%. We jumped really quickly, onboarding 40, 50 vendors at a time in given weeks to where, and within a
Right.
2-month span, we were seeing 100% invoice matching going on in our system. So it was just a little bit of planning, but really it was on OE side learning it so fast too.
Okay, great. If we switch the lens a little bit, we touched on this before, but if we talk about feedback from the suppliers, can you share with us kind of a general sense that you're getting from suppliers after the adoption of the OpenEnvoy platform?
Yeah, everything's been positive so far. Not that we identified to all of them what we were doing per se, what technology we were putting in place. We did share it with quite a few of them, the purposes of why we were doing it, how it was going to benefit them, and all of them have seen the results. Um, Everything has gotten more accurate, has gotten more efficient. The payments have gotten faster, and we know they're overall happy with the performance because the way they've been working with us. When it comes to negotiations or when it just comes to working with us in our partnership, we can tell in our relations that everything has improved. They're happy with the overall process. And they've been willing to work with us. A lot of them have been willing to work with us about what we need on the documents, what would help us to be more accurate. And so that's a continued
Mhm.
process too. We're just upfront with them about, hey, this is why we need it on the document, why it's going to benefit you, and how much faster it's going to get through our system with you. You know, we're not going to be able to, we're not going to have to contact your accounting department over and over again. So you can just imagine our accounting team making hundreds of phone calls any given day or week. Some one-to-one supplier,
Right.
maybe that was 20 phone calls in the week, and they're having to deal with that work too and go pull the invoices, figure out what was going on. And we've really been able to bypass a lot of that. So it saved them time as well. They're overall happy about that. Anytime we improve our
Yeah.
technology that helps them, they're very happy.
Yeah. Well, one other question that we got was as people look to kind of reduce the actual touch, you know, to arrive at a more touchless process. You being Rainey's have kind of identified one of the goals is to switch what we're calling non-PO invoices to PO invoices so that, you know, they could be automated, matched, and take people out of the loop. Can you tell the listeners a little bit more about that?
Yeah, we had some basic expenses when it came to like warehouse materials and so forth, non-inventory items in our warehouse. And maybe it was shipments, basic expenses, maybe that we didn't necessarily turn into POs, but the fact that we could get those sent through OE, then it could go through a basic matching where we could just upload the documents ourselves. So for instance, one of our
Right.
personnel here, he does an import of all of our shipment invoices, all of the acknowledgments and the quotes, so that when those invoices come in, they can be matched up and approved very quickly instead of someone trying to make sure every single billing expense that came from one of our shipment partners is correct
Right.
and accurate, right? It was a very long process that took hours and hours and hours every week. And then another one was what I mentioned when it comes to supplies, just placing POs for non-inventory items so that it existed in our system in the first place. As soon as that invoice came in, even though as soon as that invoice came in to OE, then it had a PO to go look at those non-inventory items. And it was able to tell us right away, okay, yeah, these are all the boxes or tape or everything that you purchased that was on your PO. These are the correct prices based off of what your PO and your rate
Mhm.
card says. Therefore, this is approved. Go ahead and create this basic expense bill. So that's a time saver in itself too, turning some of those things into POs.
Great. I'd like to close it up here. We kind of started with the introduction, like from kind of where you came from to the co-founder of Rainey's to what brought you here today. Can you tell us what lies in store for you, Rainey's, kind of your outlook on things?
Yeah,
What's your
sure.
next?
Rainey's is more of an adventure for us. So like what we see coming in the future seems to kind of like it changes and we adapt to it fast. Right now, the focus obviously has been extending our brand recognition and bringing on more brands. So we plan on continuing to grow the company. We plan on adventuring into multiple warehousing solutions because we just have one main warehouse with a lot of drop ships and some other third parties. So we're probably going to be extending our warehouse reach so that we can get better service to our customers. But the plan, just keep growing exponentially, hopefully.
Great. We really do appreciate the time you spent with us, Eric, and we wish you all the best of luck in the future.